music has an incredible capacity to connect us, amplify voices that aren't always heard, and open doors to a more inclusive tomorrow. That's why we support Canadian music with a focus through the TD Ready commitment on experiences that bring people together and break down barriers even when we're apart. music has an incredible capacity to connect us, amplify voices that aren't always heard, and open doors to a more inclusive tomorrow. That's why we support Canadian music with a focus through the TD Ready commitment on experiences that bring people together and break down barriers even when we're apart. music has an incredible capacity to connect us, amplify voices that aren't always heard, and open doors to a more inclusive tomorrow. That's why we support Canadian music with a focus through the TD Ready commitment on experiences that bring people together and break down barriers even when we're apart.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Jackson. I'm the Artistic Director for the TD Halifax Jazz Festival, and I'm beyond excited to welcome you to our 35th season of the TD Halifax Jazz Festival and our very first Jazz Lab. Very excited to be here at the Lighthouse Arts Centre. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory and ancestral homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. We acknowledge the treaties of peace and friendship, and we all need to take meaningful steps in reconciliation and the continued effort of a strong nation-to-nation relationship. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the support of the Government of Canada, the Province of Nova Scotia, and the Municipality of Halifax. I would also like to extend a very big thanks to our title sponsor, TD Bank Group, and we truly appreciate their support. We'd also like to extend a big thanks to our festival partners, Advocate Printing and Publishing, Stingray Radio, CTV, Inside Optometry, and the Lighthouse Arts Centre. So we are here for the first of 5 Jazz Labs. We're going to be coming to you every Saturday at 11 o'clock in the morning with a great variety of people. I'll tell you more about that at the end. But we're going to get right into it. We've got Matty Galaxy here. And let me just tell you a little bit about Matty. Matty Galaxy is a Halifax-based DJ and producer and is part of the next generation of upcoming producers who have already shared the stages with international DJs such as Grand Theft, Ryan Hemsworth, Zedds Dead, and more. So Matty is going to be breaking down what he does, building beats. We might add in a little trombone here that I've got, and we'll take it from there. So thanks so much, Matty, for joining us.
Yeah,
I should mention, if you have any questions, I'll be checking out the feeds, so you can pop them, and we'll get to them when we can. Thanks. Take it away, Matty.
Awesome. So within this next hour, I'm just going to try to build out a beat, and we're also going to get lovely Andrew to lay some trombone down. And yeah, so I'm just going to run through a session of how I usually work. If there's any questions, if you need me to slow down on anything when it comes down to the mixing or any questions along those lines, feel free to ask, and I'll slow down and just run through it. So yeah, let's jump into it. All right, so today we have this lo-fi drum pattern that we're going to start with.
I got a question right off the top.
Yeah.
What program are you using?
Oh, so I'm using Ableton 11, which is like the newest Ableton, and I think it's awesome. I highly recommend it. It can definitely be intimidating looking at it as a beginner because it looks like a science project of some sort. But it's great, like the automation you can do. There's a lot of, you can really get into like the nitty gritty of certain sounds and really dial in, customization of a beat. Yeah, so it's great. It's mostly what I use. I also use Free Loops some of the time, but it's mostly Ableton just because I'm way quicker in Ableton and can get things done in a speedier manner. Yeah, man. All right, so yeah, we're just gonna build this little session out. We'll start with this little drum beat, which is a lo-fi drum beat. Yeah, so maybe speed it up a tiny bit. So the next thing we're gonna do is try to find some chords. So usually what I do, I usually get stuck in the same like key or chord pattern like over and over. So what I usually do is use a program called Cthulhu, which is like a chord generator. And so basically what you do is like you run whatever synth you're using through through that program, and you can pick like certain keys, and it will give you like a variety of chords that usually like you wouldn't fall upon. So yeah, I'll just set that up now while this is playing. There we go. So it gives you a bunch of different chord presets that you can just find on the internet. So I'll just get into one of these ones and we'll just start trying to get like some soulful chords down for this. We'll just pick a different sound here. See if we can get some organ maybe.
There really is a huge amount of options there.
Huh?
There's a huge amount of options there.
Yeah. So this plugin I'm using right now is Octave Deluxe, and it's also made by my best friend Jacob, who's a producer from Dartmouth. And yeah, this is what he does now. Like he does these plugins, and this is the deluxe version of Octave, which is great. Like it has some awesome sounds in it to just like curate from. Just work with me, I'll find it here. That's good. So those first two I know for sure I like. We just have to find like a third or the third and the fourth for it.
We got a question from the Facebook chat from Mary Dan Johnston.
Yeah.
Are you controlling how often you hit the chords with the keyboard?
Oh yes. So my MIDI keyboard I had here wasn't actually working, so I'm on the actual typing keyboard right now. When I press those, yeah. So it's almost like a sampler in a way, the way I'm like chopping these up. It like makes different chords going through this. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question while you're doing this. Like, so from my background, I come from like a like jazz theory background. But for you, are you like primarily just like, you know, it's all just what you hear, like, and making decisions that way on what you're putting into the beat?
For the most part, I'd say a lot lately. Like in the last like 5 years or so, like I'm really understanding that side of it in theory and like movements of chords and like how it should sound. But for the most part, I'll go to this because when it comes to playing, like I'll usually be in like G flat minor, and like that's always what I play. Like I know where to go. Yeah, I always know where to go, like within that, in that progression. Mm-hmm. So this is just like a nice step away from me and like giving me something new. And this way, when it comes to like writer's block, just less chance of you feeling less creative. Because so many times I'll be in here and there'll be chords that I hit that I would never think of play or like know how to play or like how to have the fingers like on the keys for them. So yeah, so this is like a nice little break for me when it comes to writing. And splice is also nice too. If you know about splice, just like it's, you got so many samples there, and it's, you know, it's kind of frowned upon on some producers, but I think it's great, man. Like it's just a great way to like avoid writer's block. I think that's like the biggest thing you can do is anytime you feel unmotivated, to use those resources. You know, you shouldn't shy away from those just because they're already pre-made in a sense. Like this drum loop's from Splice, and no, they're just great to use like in the sake of time. Mm-hmm. There's definitely times when I'll hone in and like work on drums and really dial in, but sometimes it's just nice to have something there that you wouldn't necessarily think about or like, you know, make up. So yeah, I just got these two ones, and we'll just find two more, and then we'll get into like a bass. We'll get Andrew like on some trumpet, and just try to fill the track out, and even like structure it out. We can structure it out also. Just let that run. Okay. So we just want to find the two more in there, so we're just going to mess around until we can find those third and fourth chords. That's not bad. Oh, that's not bad. I like that. All right, so now I'm just gonna stack it to kind of fill it out and give it more of a unique sound, something that's like more catching to the ear. So we just duplicate that track, this sound, and then we can just scroll through some and see what would be cool to put in. That's kind of cool. This feels like one of those memes that's like, you see those ones where it's like, what my parents think producers do, like what my friends think producers do. And this is like what we actually do is click through like all these sounds for hours until we find something. So I'm actually gonna throw in I'm just gonna save this first.
That must be a key point. Always save your work.
Yeah. Well, Ableton's really good in the sense that if it X's out or it just crashes, it usually can open up to right where it was. Sometimes you lose some of the sound presets, but that's one thing I really love about it is, but also, yes, like you should get used to saving a lot. It's just a good habit. So I'm gonna throw in keyscape, or just so we can, there it is. Just so we can get like some organs, or like actually like some Rhodes. Oops, sorry. Rhodes. And so any Ableton users out there, this is a really good thing I'll do on a lot of stuff just to get a stereo effect, like a stereo spread on a sound that you want to be more, you know, wider and not so much like down the middle. Is I'll go into like a delay, grab a delay, and this is the settings that you do. You turn down feedback, turn off the filter, turn all the way up, and so like you unlink them and turn it to time, and then so this would be like the basic thing you have. I don't know if we'll hear it so much because it's in mono, all right, so, but when you dial this up, it will start to give you more of a stereo effect on whatever sound. And it will really open it up. So I'm just going to add in like a little bit of ear candy. It's just something that's will catch the ear a little bit, and it can come in every now and again. Where we go here? Octave. And what also is great about Ableton 11 is you can see what key I'm in here. So I'm in C. I'm assuming it's minor, but we can also use this plugin here, mixed in key, and it will give us the for sure of like what key it's in, or A minor, I guess. C major. All right, cool. So it is major. Cool. So a cool thing you can do in the newest Ableton is like it will give you the scale, so you can pretty much just like click in a melody by just clicking in the piano roll scale, and it's already on C major. And so you can see it gives us everything that's highlighted blue will be in the key of C major. So you can basically like type in what you want and it will be in key. So I'm just gonna mess around a little bit here to see if I can get just something that'd be a little bit of ear candy. That would be nice. I should have been recording this. So now I don't remember what I just did and I liked it. All right.
So with that, you're sort of like tweaking the MIDI sounds that you put in, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I just roughly recorded something, and then you can just tweak, different melodies out of it. Yeah. I think it actually went out of tune, the actual synth. Let me throw an octave or a atmosphere in there actually. I might just go for that like little strum at the first of the bar for now, and then just get a bass and see where we can go from there. We'll just do that every now and again there. All right, so we'll add a bass in next, and basically what I'm going to do is just record the MIDI out of Cthulhu. It's another cool thing you can do, like it can produce these chords, but you can actually record the MIDI out of it. Just one sec here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you're building, so you started with with chords.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have like a typical way that you usually build like the instrumentation in your beats, or?
Yeah, I think most of the time I'll start with melody. For the most part, sometimes when it's drums like this, like a lo-fi vibe, I kind of like to have them, or have them already, and even just playing, like messing around, finding things. But it's also, I'll also just play like this also, just to find like a chord progression. But most of the time it is melody.
Yeah. Does it change? It probably changes like depending on who you're working with. Or
Yeah.
Looking for. Like.
Yeah, true. Like if sometimes if I'm doing ad work and specific vendor is like, oh, for this ad we wanted, like usually most of the time I'll go off drums in that way. Like I'll search lo-fi drum or trap drum in that way. That way you know for sure you already have that, what they're looking for, like genre-wise. So in those cases I'll start with drums most of the time. But most of the time, if I'm just like making something on my own for like sending to artists or whatnot, it's usually the synth or chords, just because I feel like it gives it more of a feel than starting with drums. Yeah, and it's just I like building it out that way also. Yeah.
Cool.
How about yourself?
it changes
I know,
every time.
It's hard to say, but yeah, mostly I'll start with melody. Yeah, so I'll record Cthulhu, the chord maker, out into this octave down here, and it should give us, yeah, so it's recording all the MIDI chords that are being played right now, and basically I'll just do this in sake of time for finding the bass notes. So there you go. All you have to do is take the top off of those, and you have your bass notes. Maybe drop it down an octave. Let's take that off of that. There you go. And I will use an awesome sub that's in Ableton. That's a stock, and it's called Sub Stomach. And I find this is like a really good bass that you can manipulate. You can throw on the amp setter in Ableton to almost give it like a real bass feel. Obviously nothing's as good as some real bass, like a good bass player playing some bass for you. Like I would love to have that, but in times like this, I'll go to this plugin and just manipulate. So you might have to take it up a bit. That might be too low. There you go. And we can even check out the amps to see if there is like some cabinets. And then again, we can do the C major scale and kind of add a little bit of flair on the bass. Cool, add that in. We can add a little reverb on that, just to spice it up a little bit. We'll go into Fab Filter. And I'll also add the delay on that to give it like a good stereo spread. So we'll start to like structure it out a little bit here. Just maybe add one more thing on top here. Where's this at? We'll do another hemisphere. Oh. Cool.
Bring in the choir?
Huh?
Say bring in the choir?
Yeah. Yeah, might as well. I love choirs, so this is subtle. And do you want to try it?
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm only getting bits and pieces of hearing the track, so.
Yeah, let me set this up. I should be able to.
So do you have anything that when I'm adding something, do you have anything like that you want?
No, you know, in the sake of Jazz Fest, you can get your jazz on.
All right.
Did you want to hear yourself coming back through as you play, or?
No, it's okay. I think I'll be able to hear it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just run it. I'll just make sure levels are good and everything.
I can keep going forever.
Yeah. You just want to do one quick little round again?
Yeah, let's do it.
Just a little bit. It was clipping there for a second. Then I just, yeah, should be good to go. Yeah. Sick. All right, just let me, I'll give it back in 1 sec here.
Oh, yeah.
Just let me make sure we're good here. Yeah, that's dope. That's sick.
Yeah, I'd like to hear you mess with it.
Huh?
I'd like to hear you mess around with it and like feel free to tweak it.
No, that's awesome. That sounds great. if you guys are looking at these waveforms, nobody judge me on how they look like they're clipping, because we're just using USB mic right now, so the trombone is a little much for this little blue mic right now. But there's some great pieces that they sound great. Yeah, man. Oh. So we're gonna have this little horn in the intro that kind of like brings us into the actual beat coming in. I think it kind of sounds kind of nice. And I'm just gonna try some stuff on the drums here, just to give them more of a like a dirtier vintage feel. So there's one of these plugins, Cassette, which is pretty great in emulating that. Which it might be a little much for this plugin, but I do have another one that's kind of the same thing and gives you more options to mess around with. This one's great too. If anyone doesn't know these two plugins and want to have this vintage like dirty feel on drums or anything really, like it's great for just making stuff sound like it was pulled off of records, which is great for loop making, which is another big part of like rap production right now is in collaboration. Is a lot of producers will make just melody loops, like quick sample loops, and send them to the other producers just to add drums or do the thing on, and that's been a big part of production lately, and I do a lot of that also along with beat making. So these plugins are great with actually making it sound like a real sample. And it's pretty straightforward when it comes to the knobs in it, and I just think this is an easy plugin to work in. So I like that. That sounds nice. It adds a little bit of like a tape slam, kind of like hits it a little harder, hits the drums a little harder, gives them a little bit of crunch. So I think just looping these 3 sections should be good enough. Do you want to listen to one part that you want to listen?
I'd love to hear the combined parts here.
So it's just that one section, like bringing it in.
Right on.
Yeah,
Very
that's
chill.
awesome, man. So yeah, now that you have these certain elements that you can bring in and out of your beat, you can structure your beat, you know, depending on what you are using for it. Like if you're sending it to an artist, like I would think I would leave this pretty open as it is if I was going to send this to an artist. Just because you don't want to put too much in. There's a, I forget who said it, but there's a great saying that I heard, and it's like when you're making your beats or instrumentals and you think that it needs that one more sound, and you're like, I don't know what it is, but it feels like it's missing something, and it needs that one more sound. Usually, it's the artist. Like it's usually in your mind, you know, you're thinking that one more sound is usually going to be the vocal. So I think it's good practice to not, you know, to be okay with simplicity within beats, and just mixing it, you know, because like you hear like Dr. Dre beats back in the day, and those are like pretty simple, but like the way they're mixed, it just gives everything space and, you know, everything room to breathe, and like everything has its own space within the stereo field. So I think it's really important not to muddy it up too much. But on the other flip side, it's like if you're just releasing instrumentals, then you know you can probably add as much as you want in different sections. Yeah, and not messing it up too much.
Yeah, I do find that when I like write horn parts for people, I've learned over the years, like I'll send something to someone, I've put up like, oh yeah, I got all these like grand ideas, and they're like, maybe like, and I've written all these like complicated things.
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe like take this part out, like, and keep it simple, because it's true when you add, they're adding in the vocals, like that's what you want at the forefront for the most part. Like. Yeah,
no, exactly. And yeah, I find most of the times I played beats for artists, like when I'm in the studio with them, I find that they'll catch a vibe easier to the ones with more space, probably because they can hear their self, like being on that track. You know, they have space. They're like, okay, this is like where I fit in. But the same thing, I think that's like a big part in the producers community, is like we spend all this time on these beats. You know, you have a beat, you put so much time in, you're like, oh, like this artist is gonna love it, I can't wait to play it. And you play it, and they just kind of brushed off, like, okay, like what else do you have? And it's usually the beat that you spend like 5 minutes on, and you're like, oh, no one's gonna like this. Most of the time, that like
you hear that all the time.
That's the ones they take, and you're like, oh my god, like. But yeah, just a lot of time when it comes to the beats, just like I try not to just overthink it and use these kind of tools to avoid like writer's block. And yeah, so at this point, it would just be structuring and like even just like labeling. You know, you can label certain parts in like the Ableton session, or like, you know, intro, which is also a great practice for anyone like using Ableton. Is like have your certain places marked. So we'll say this is like the chorus section. And yeah, we'll just call this a verse, and Andrew is the artist. It will count as the vocal of the verse. Yeah, and it's also good to like, I didn't do it so much the sessions, but if I'm working on stuff at home and have more time, I'm usually going through these like labeling, you know, just to make it very neat, because nothing's worse than, sending an instrumental for like a big opportunity, and they're like, all right, send the stems, and then you have to go back through all these, and you're like, well, what's the sound?
Yeah.
All right, I gotta, just like sorting stems and stuff. So
And that happens all the time when people don't
man,
label things properly.
Yeah, it like drives me crazy, like seeing some sessions that are just a mess. I'm like, oh my god, because you're just looking out for your future self. And I've been in situations where in the studio it's like holding the session together. Like if someone's like, oh, that's a dope sample, send me the stems, then the pressure's on you to be like, I need to export this ASAP and get it to this person that's making the beat in front of me. And so I kind of learned just to have things labeled, anything that's like the easiest way, in case someone asks for something, to have it ready. Yeah, man. So yeah, and I usually just structure this out. Say V2, chorus. And then just maybe like an outro,
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I won't bore everyone with all this labeling and whatnot. But usually this is how I work through a session, and there's definitely a more intricate when it comes to like the mixing and mastering side of it. But like that's like a whole nother.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
That's a whole nother
workshop.
session. But I will say this is a great plugin. Gold Floss, and what it is, in short term, in short like theory, it's basically just an adaptive EQ, and I find it kind of like glues the mix together nicely, and so I'll just check it on. Sometimes like it doesn't do too much for me to notice, but sometimes weirdly it just pulls the sounds together better. And then I'll usually just have a limit on there just to make sure like we're not going too crazy. Yeah, how are we on time? Should we keep going?
I think we are actually at our time.
Okay.
Cool. But I just have one last question. I'm just wondering, for people that are interested in, like, for you, are there any like resources that you access, like to learn about new things, or like tutorials out there?
Well, YouTube University, man. YouTube is amazing. Like I really wish I had it when I was like starting out beat making when I was 14 and in junior high. Like it would have saved me a bunch of time, like learning Fruity Loops. But yeah, I would say, man, there's so many tutorials on YouTube, and I actually spend like a lot of time on there, like recently, learning about like sub-bus mixing, and which is also pretty awesome. But yeah, I would say YouTube. Splice is great. It's a great resource. Definitely don't be afraid to use it just because you're scared someone might else use the same sound. It's like, I would say just go for it,
Yeah.
It's like the chances, I have been in studios where I have heard the same sample used from Splice, but it's rare. Like, why not use that resource? I'd say YouTube. That's mostly where I get most of my info.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we'll call it there. Thank you so much for power creating a beat. I mean, it was really informative and something that I wasn't like super familiar with myself. So it's like something I kind of want to tackle on my own.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah, and so you had mentioned before we started that, as we're getting back into people going out to shows and things like that, and you do like some DJing, like public DJing as well. Yeah. So is there anywhere people can catch you anytime soon?
Not anything too soon. Now that things are kind of get back into it, I'm kind of slowly getting back into it also, and like getting events, but nothing recently. But I always post everything on my Instagram, which is just Matty Galaxy, at Matty Galaxy. Yeah, anytime I have a show, like I'll post it there, and that's like where all updates are. Yeah, Yeah, that's
Awesome.
much it, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, man.
Great.
Appreciate it.
And we just wanted to say thank you for everyone that was tuning in, asking questions. And we're actually, so this is the first of our 5 Jazzlabs series. We want to just give a big shout out to TD Bank Group for sponsoring this event. We'll be back here next Saturday. We've got the fusion of culture and dance with Jesse Benjamin. That's going to be a really interesting talk and discussion, and I can't wait for that. Following that, we have the art of improvisation with New Hermitage. And then the next Saturday, we have the Miseducation of Hip Hop with Dilshan Weerasinghe. And then we have Discovering Your Sound with Kirsten Olivia. So those are all going to be on Facebook and YouTube at 11 a.m. on Saturdays. We just want to give a big shout out to Ben here, working on the tech side of things with Rockman Productions, making it sound nice on that end. And thank you for tuning in. And be sure, tonight we've got a performance happening on our YouTube page by Hillsburn, fantastic group, a really wonderful performance. So you're going to want to tune into that at 8 o'clock. And check out all of our activities that we've got coming up on our website at halifaxjazzfestival.ca. And thanks again to Matty for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Music has an incredible capacity to connect us, amplify voices that aren't always heard, and open doors to a more inclusive tomorrow. That's why we support Canadian music with a focus through the TD Ready commitment on experiences that bring people together and break down barriers even when we're apart.